Hey everyone, thank you for joining me today. In this video, we're going to be learning how to make a VR space game for Android. So first off, what you're going to want to do if you do not have this set to Android, you're going to want to go to your build settings, go to Android and switch platform. And after you've done that, you're going to want to import my Unity package. It's going to have these two folders in here, and one is, I even specify it as Unity content. It's not mine, I didn't make it, so I made sure to specify it as Unity content. It's just an astronaut that was from the NASA assets, and all I did was imported it into Blender, and I rigged it so I can use my own animations on it. Alright, so let's go ahead and start. So first off, what we're going to want to do, let's go ahead, actually let me go back to the astronaut and let's bring him into our scene. You know what, it looks like I don't have a camera on my scene. You should most likely have a camera on your scene, but I don't have one on mine. So let's just set that there. Alright, well now that we have our character in there, we're going to want to give him a planet to stand on. So go into the models, there's a planet there. I like to scale mine up a little big. You don't have to, but that's just what I want to do on mine. And then I'm going to bring it down -1860. There we go, perfect. Alright, so now that we've got that on there, let's make sure that it has a collider for one. Okay, it does have colliders. I thought I forgot that for a second, but it's okay. It has colliders, and then now we're going to want to give our astronaut colliders. But as you can see, his pivot point is it's at a pretty weird place. I guess when I imported it, I didn't export it to where his center was there from Blender, so it's at the bottom there. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna create an empty game object in that same position, and I'm just gonna make the astronaut a child of it, and let's just call it something like Astro for short. And then let's bring the astronaut down -1, and there we go. Now he is centered. So once we've done that, let's go ahead and add a capsule collider to the parent game object we just created, and let's put its radius at about 0.4 and its height at 2, and that looks pretty good. Let's actually bring the astronaut up just a little bit. Let's see what that looks like. Okay, that's fine. He's going to be floating most of the time because he's out in space, so it doesn't matter whether it looks like he's a little high off the ground, because he'll hardly be on it. Alright, so now that we've got that set up, we are going to want to give him an animator controller, because he needs to be able to be animated. So go into the controllers, and I already made this. I didn't want to spend a really long video explaining on how animator controllers work when I was making it, so I just decided to make it and add it, include it into the package. And here you can see I have a flying blending tree, or blend tree, and all it is his flying motions. You know, you can see here if he's flying forward, right, back, left, and you can see his animations go pretty smooth. And then we also even have this one here for when he's flying up and down. And the blend trees don't have 3 directions, so I had to add an extra blend tree into the blend tree to make some more directions. So now that we've got that there, let's go ahead and let's start controlling the animator controller. Let's add a script onto the game object here. Let's call it Astro Controller, and it's going to be a C# script. Yep, C#. Create an add, and then I'm just gonna move that to my scripts folder. I actually should have just created it in there, but that's okay. Alright, so Astro Controller, put that in the scripts folder. Should be the only script you have now. And then go ahead and open it up. Just waiting for Mono Develop or Visual Studio, whatever it is you're using. Alright, so now that we have this open, let's you know what, let me take a look here. Okay, actually, yeah, first let's stick to the animator controller. That's what this is meant for. We're going to be using the animator controller. I was thinking, actually, you know what, we will add physics to this too. So we're going to add a rigid body later through this script. As a matter of fact, let's just put that there now. So let's just put require type of rigid body. There we go, rigid body, and there we go. So now he's going to have a rigid body on him. But before we start messing with the physics, let's go ahead and get some parameters in here. So let's go ahead and create a animator, anim, and then right now we can just set that at the beginning. Anim equals, we're gonna have to find a child since we changed our game object to be a child. So transform dot find child, and then whatever, if you don't want to use my astronaut model, then you can use whatever model you want, but just make sure that this is the name of that model. Astronaut has to be spelled the same, all same letters, caps. If you have any spaces, make sure to include those. And then dot get component animator. Animator, there we go. So that's good. And then we can also, since we have the rigid body up there, let's go ahead and let's create a reference to that. So rigid body RB, and then we'll just put that up here too. RB equals get component rigid body. Alright, and it won't have any problems finding this component because we're requiring it at the start. Alright, so now that we've got that in there, let's start adding some more of our animator parameters. So we have a float there, which is called move, and then we're going to need another float to correspond with this move float, because this move float is actually going to be our input, and we're going to need a force to add to this. So we're going to say float move force, and then we're going to do the same thing for our strafe. So float strafe, and then float. Actually, we don't even need to do anything with the strafe. We'll just use the move force for that one. So then we'll put another float, jets, which is also on our animator controller. And then, as a matter of fact, we need to make this a public float because we wanna edit it in the inspector. And then we'll create another public float. That's gonna be jet force. And then last, we need to get that boolean. It doesn't need to be public. Boolean grounded, and that's good for that. Now let's go ahead and let's get into the we need one more float too, because we're going to be rotating our we're going to have to rotate our player so we can look around. So let's just call it rotation rate. Alright, so first off, in our update, let's go ahead and set our move and strafe and jets floats. So move equals input dot get axis, and this one's going to be our vertical axis, and then we're going to do the same thing for strafe, which is going to be our horizontal axis. Horizontal, there we go. And for our jets, it's going to be a little different. We're going to have to set that ourselves because we don't have an axis for that. We could create an axis, but I'd rather do it this way. What we're going to say is if input dot get button, and for now, you know what, before we put that in there, let's create some buttons. So go to your project settings and go to input, and I actually already have some created here. Just create new array elements, and then make one called up, and put the key for E. And then since we're going to be making this into a VR game, we will need a joystick, so make sure to set a joystick button on there too. I'm using the red samurai, I believe it is, from GameStop. I haven't seen it in a while, but that's what I'm using, and this is the L1 key, and then down is L2. And then positive, let's see here, Q. I'm putting that at Q, and then we're having this one at E. So press E, we go up, Q, we go down. So that's looking good. Let's go ahead and let's just add that in here. So if input get button up, then we'll say jets equals 1, and then we'll do the same thing for down. Jets equals -1, and then we're going to do one more, which is going to be if we're going to get both of these instead. So if Control-C, we're going to put not input for both of those, and we're going to put an and on there so we can have them both. Not input down, then jets equals 0. Jets equals 0. Alright, so now we have our jets, strafe, and move floats set to inputs. Now what we're going to want to do, let's go ahead and get our rotation going on. What we're going to do for this one, we're not going to make it very advanced. We're just going to transform. We're just going to transform.rotate. So transform.rotate, and then we're going to do what was it again? We're just going to do our mouse input. So input dot. And we don't even have to change our input to do joystick controls because it automatically has joystick controls on there. Unless your joystick controls have a different axis that's on the input, then you'll have to change it, but we shouldn't have to change it. So input.get axis mouse y, and you know what, actually we're gonna have to change this to a negative input because mouse y is always inverted, and I don't know why. It's probably stated somewhere in the API, but I haven't really looked on there. Alright, and then we're gonna do input.get axis mouse x. Oh, I forgot. Oh, that's not mouse x. Let's try that again. Mouse x. And then we're actually going to have to multiply these by our rotation rate. So rotate rate, route rate, or, yeah, route rate. And then we can multiply it by time dot time. Do that for it. And then the z is just going to be 0. Alright, so that should be working for our rotation. It's not very advanced, like I say. It's just going to be our mouse rotation. Maybe I'll change it into a lerp, slurp, or something later just to smooth it, but I really don't want to add force on any part of this, because for one, I'll have to create game objects on the outside of it to add force in certain directions. So if you have it in the middle of the center of the object, it's just going to add a force in the center of the object, and it won't turn it. But that's not the only reason. The other reason is that if my drag on my rigid body in space is going to be 0, there's no drag in space, so you're just going to keep on rotating constantly until you try to rotate the opposite direction. And in a video game, real space physics isn't always fun. Some people might think it's fun. I actually think it's fun, but a lot of other people they don't really like that. They rather have the what we have now in video games, the fake physics. But I'm trying to make it as real as possible while still making it fun. So let's go ahead and let's continue. So now that we got all of our updates set up, let's go ahead and start working on our fixed update, which is gonna control our physics and our animator controller. So fixed update, and let's go ahead and set our animator parameters first. So set float. Set float. I can't type. Set float. There we go. And for this part, you're gonna want to make sure that these are indeed the exact same letters that are on here. Capitalized, spaces, anything that you might have in there. It needs to be the exact same thing, or it will not work. So move, and we're gonna set that to move. That way, when we're pressing down our vertical, it's gonna change this float to whatever the axis is at. And then we're gonna do the same thing for the next. For the next 2 floats. So strafe, and then jets. And then we're gonna have to set our Boolean also. And there was one more thing that I think might be a little bit weird later, is that when we are on the ground, we're going to be rotating on our y-axis, and I want to change that. I don't want to be able to rotate on our y. I want us to be only rotating on the, well, we're actually going to, right after I'm done typing this, we're going to fix that up right here. So we're going to change if not grounded, then we're going to be able to move on our y-axis, else we're just going to, here, let's copy this. We're only going to move on our y-axis, x-axis. I think I might have said that backwards. We're going to be only moving on our x-axis when we're grounded, and moving on both x and y when we're in the air. So that should be just fine. Right now, if you're rotated at a weird position and you land, you become grounded, you're going to stay in that rotation. So I might, during the alignment of the planet, when we do that in the next video, I might make it so that he automatically aligns with the planet when he's grounded too. So, because the way I intentionally planned on doing it was to where you can move freely in space, and then when you're on the ground, you can only move this way. But I don't want to land, like, say, on my belly and then try to move, because that's what will happen right now. But I'll fix that up in the next video. So now that we got our animators parameters set here, let's start working on the physics. So we got our rigid body up here, RB. So what we're going to want to do, RB.add force. We're going to do transform.forward. We're going to do transform.forward times, we'll go move times move force. And then, yeah, that should be fine on there. Then we're going to do the same thing for our strafe. So rb.add force, we're going to say transform.right times move, strafe times move force. And then we're going to do the same thing for our jets. rb.add force, we're going to do transform.up times, what was it again, times jets times jet force. And then for this one, we're going to want to make a force mode, because when we add gravity later on, it's not going to be, it won't be high enough. And I don't want to make it an insanely high number. We just want it to, we just want it to work. So impulse. Alright, so that should be fine on that part. Let's see if there's anything else that I may need to add. So far we have our animators working. We have our parameters set here. There was one more thing. We don't want our player to be going backwards faster than, or as fast as he can go forward. And we don't want him to be jogging backwards, because right now, if we use the script just how it is, the move parameter can go all the way to -1. And as you can see in the animator, if we have the move axis all the way at -1, he's jogging backwards, and that just looks really weird. Let's change it to something like, I don't know, 0.4. Yeah, see, that looks a lot better. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll say if move is less than 0.4f, then move equals 0.4. That's not right. We'll say then move. I don't know how I did that. I wasn't looking when I was typing. So yeah, that seems to be, oh no, not 0.4, -0.4. That's what we want to be at, because otherwise he'll just be constantly looking like he's walking forward or moving forward just a little bit. Alright, so let's go ahead and let's save this. Jet force, move force, just to make sure I have all the things right. The rotation rate needs to be public also, so let's go ahead and do that and then save it. Make sure we don't have any errors here. I don't see any popping up. I think my speaker might have came out during this video, so if there's a bunch of like really weird sounds, like, I don't know, air conditioning or something, I'm sorry. I just plugged it back in a little while ago, so I'm not sure how long it was out. But anyway, let's go ahead. Yeah, let's test this out now. So let's go to our scenes. Let's get our camera into a good position. Actually, I'm just going to put it onto the player here, because it doesn't really matter. We're just going to make a virtual reality camera later. This is just for testing purposes. Alright, that's good. And did we add our we do have our astronaut. We don't have, we do have our astronaut controller, but it doesn't have, it does not have our rigid body on there. So let's add it again. There we go. Now there's our rigid body. And our rigid body, we're going to want to, intentionally, we're going to take the gravity off and use the planet's gravity. But for now, let's leave it on so that we can have some gravity. And then we're going to freeze these rotations. Move force, I'm changing to, 5 seems is probably good. Since we have the since we have the jet force as an impulse, we're going to have to keep that kind of low. So I'd say maybe 5 is good for that one too. No, let's go 1. But we don't want to have it too high or else we'll just go zooming off and yeah, he won't come back. Alright, so let's go ahead and give that a go. See how it turns out. And I wonder what's going on. Oh, we didn't even add the grounded functions to tell whether he's grounded or not. And this is really easy. It doesn't take very much time. We're going to change this later actually because I don't want it to be something, I don't want it to be like this. But right now we're going to do it like this. Void on collision enter. We're going to be using collisions for this instead of raycast. Later we're using raycast. Type of collision, and we'll just call it col. And if col dot game object. Right now it doesn't matter what game object it is that we're colliding with. We're just going to set grounded to true. Equals true. Alright, and then we're going to do the same thing. We're just going to copy it. Whoops, copy it and then paste it here so that we can do it exit instead of enter. So enter, change to exit, and then grounded true is going to be grounded false. Alright, so let's see if that's working. Alright, it's compiled and let's give it a go. Alright, see he starts off as not grounded, then he goes to grounded, and then he's going forward, walking backwards just how I wanted perfectly. And then he's oh, we don't have any type of walking sideways animations, so he doesn't look like he's moving, but you can see here that he is indeed moving a little bit. So that's pretty good. And we can go up and go down. Oh, I have those set backwards actually. You know what, I want the up to be oh no, wait, they're set right. They're set right. Alright, and you can see he moves a lot better in the air because he has no drag. When he's on the ground, he has all this drag. Or he doesn't actually have drag, but he's colliding with something, so it's a lot harder to move when you're colliding with something. But later on we will be changing, we'll be given the planet gravity itself. That way because as you can see, we're hardly even rotating when we rotate here. As a matter of fact, let me go ahead and increase that just so we can move a little faster. Alright, so that's a little better. And we don't have any turning animations right now. I didn't make any. Maybe we can import some of that mocap data that's on the asset store. But right now it's okay. So yeah, as you can see, he can fly, he can turn, we can turn that way. And this is what I was saying earlier about how if I'm laying on my stomach and I land, then he stays like that, because we can't rotate. And we're gonna have to change that later to where he aligns with the planet. And now I can't even move. I'm stuck. Okay, there we go. See what I mean? We don't want it to be like that. And then as you can see, the further I go down here, I'm falling. I'm falling right now. This is what's happening. And you can even see the y-axis. I'm falling. It's not aligning to the planet. I'm supposed to be falling onto the planet, but instead I'm falling past the planet. So that's what we're going to fix in the next video. And I really appreciate you guys sticking this out with me. I know this video was kind of long, but it really means a lot when you guys like and subscribe to my videos. And definitely, I really hope to see you in the next video. So you guys have a good one.